Hello everybody, Rockmoxon here, and welcome to the playoffs for the Paldea United Draft League. Now, for playoffs here, they are best 2 out of 3, and we were able to submit 2 teams. So I got the round 1 bye, so I'm immediately in semis, and our first game is going to be against Milan, as it is a rematch from our week 3 game. Now we were able to submit, of course, 2 teams. So team 1 here, we got Tinglu, we got Registeel, we got Sneasler, we got Articuno coming back, we got Chestnut, and we got the Weakness Policy Agility Latios. So that was team 1. And then team 2 here, we had Tinglu, Chestnut, Sneasler, Latios, Rotom Heat, and Galarian Weezing, as more of a very just trying to end the game as soon as possible team. So for her game 1, she ran Kilowattrel, Blaziken, Roaring Moon, Scizor, Umbreon, and Zoroark. Now, Kilowattrel and Zoroark are both her Terra Captains, or two of her 3 Terra Captains. She had the Flareon in our first game that we took part in the regular season. So let's just see how things go. So, I'm trying to just play things slow. With Tinglu here, I'm like, okay, Tinglu can kind of deal with Kilowattrel. But that damage had told me, it kind of like made me think like, okay, this is probably a Specs Kilowattrel with how much damage that dealt. But right now, I'm just trying to get up my hazards. Her hazard removal being Scizor. As I'm just trying to keep up the pressure. But that Foley Para there was kind of pretty big. As Blaziken comes in, launches off an Overheat, and I'm like, oh, that's a bit of a problem. But I set up an Agility here. But I'm like, okay, well, I still don't want to have to deal with this. But I did realize that was Zoroark. But I'm like, well, Swords Dance Zoroark, I don't think it has much for my team. So I'm just going to keep on laying down hazards. The idea is just like, she doesn't really have hazard removal except for Scizor here. So if I keep up the pressure, I can really just deal with everything later. But the U-turn here kind of tells me that, she's not running Defog Scizor. So in my mind, I'm like, okay, well, with all this hazard wearing down, I really don't have to worry. But she very, very sneakily sets up a substitute here. And now I'm like, okay, that's a bit of a problem. And then she Focus Energy? Like, this was an incredibly interesting Blaziken set here. But unfortunately, a lowering voice going through some. But I was like, okay, well, that was such a cool Blaziken set that, I gotta give her props on that at least. Unfortunately, though, now she's just kind of getting to a point to where her team is just falling apart. She tries to send in Roaring Moon here. She gets up the Dragon Dance, but, I'm way too bulky on all of my Mons here. Expecting Acrobatics. No Acrobatics, though. She does Dragon Claws. But I'm like, I'm super bulky on all of my Mons here. There's not much that she can do. And so, I'm just wearing her down in the War of Attrition. But that actually was revealed to be Choice Band Scizor, so she sends in a Zoroark here. The damage that Scizor dealt there Zoroark, was actually shockingly a lot more than I thought it would, but I'm like, oh, thank God no low kick. That was my big thing. But in a very, very dominant game 1 here so far. My team, she just was not able to break through it. Also, I like how it shows that Scizor is still there, even though it is not. But, you know, it was an incredibly dominant game 1 there. So, you know, game 2, I decide I'm going to leave things the way that it was. She swapped things around for her game 2 team. But I've got the exact same team. So, you know, I'm still kind of worried about the Zoroark and Blaziken. But in my mind, I'm like, okay, well, you know, I'm not 100% worried. My idea is still kind of the same, of like, I'm just going to hazard stack to the best of my ability. Unfortunately, Articuno does not get another freeze, but this does tell me that this is normal Scizor, and this one's got Defog. But it also has Light Screen, which kind of I was just like, what? Okay, that's weird. Not that it can really do much. But now, like, you know, I knocked off the leftovers there, so I'm like, okay, well, you know, this is already not the best start for Maylene here. Unfortunately, she's kind of already fallen into a lot of poor momentum, as I am able to just keep up the pressure. But she does reveal special Zoroark here. And, you know, I'm able to take that pretty well. But just the fact that, like, you know, okay, well, this is Zoroark. I was expecting less damage to come from that, but I guess I was physically defensive Tinglu this series. Yeah. But with Zoroark being so low now, you know, it's a lot easier for me to play around it, because I should be able to tell exactly whenever it comes in. But this is pretty much just like, you know, a war of attrition that I'm pretty much just winning the entire time. Shockingly, funnily enough though, that was not the Liquid Voice free Marina, because that was not resisted. But, you know, Registeel being a huge problem for her team. And funnily enough, I call the Defog, and I'm just like, okay, I'm just going to collect Stealth Rocks here. But I actually very smartly Thunder Wave to lower the speed and then KO it, keeping the Stealth Rocks up. I'm not worried about the Cyclizar Temper Flare. Body Press dealing out a ton of damage. I still don't understand the Light Screen on the Scizor, because like so many of my strongest mons are physical attackers. But you know, she sends in the Blaziken, special Blaziken this time, or at least like probably just fully special anyway. I send in Sneasler here. It does actually reveal to be mixed. I actually don't remember the set that it was supposed to be, but you know, Sneasler here at this point just cleans up the entire rest of the game, and I advance to the finals. So for the finals, we got ourselves another rematch against Pandemonium. Now, if you recall before, I've ran a very offensive Vaporeon, and I grabbed it again. But also, you know, I'm still keeping up like a good idea of like what I want to run. But the funny thing is, like, you know, I have the exact same Vaporeon. However, I did something funny. So if we actually look here, These are the exact same 6 mons, but they're different sets. So he can kind of like, so like my idea was like, if this goes into more games, I can kind of keep the illusion that like, oh, I've got the same team, and like he'll try and play around like the fact that like, I've got the same team, but I've got different sets, so that could end up throwing him off, making him misplay. So that was my idea for this game, or for this series. However, the first team that he has is Gouging Fire, Rillaboom, Hisuian Samurott, Bisharp, Articuno, Galar, and Arbok. And so, in my mind, I'm like, well, he still has no hazard removal, so my game plan is the exact same as the first time that we fought. Stack a bunch of hazards and slowly wear down his team through attrition. However, I was also expecting him to think like, oh, okay, I've got the exact same idea. However, due to him kind of overthinking it, I was still able to get through the first game here without him getting off any ceaseless edges, as he was expecting me to switch in the Chestnut, but I'm like, I'm trying to get off as much damage as possible with the discharges. He sends in Gouging Fire here. Unfortunately, because, on this set, I am Choice Scarf Rotom, I am locked in the discharge, but the fortunate thing about being locked in the discharge is the fact that discharge has a high chance to paralyze. And then he also reveals that he's Heat Crash, and I'm like, oh, he's not Flare Blitz. Ting Lu kind of walls it. Oh no! However, he's got himself some very interesting sets for this game. He's got himself a Sub-Protect Rillaboom here. And I'm like, okay. He really cannot damage Chestnut. But one thing that I did not end up thinking about is the fact that I now actually cannot Terra Chestnut because Chestnut has to wall Rillaboom. If I Terra Chestnut, Chestnut no longer walls Rillaboom as easily, because in this game I was Terra Water, so, it ends up being a lot harder. But right now, I'm just focused on getting up my hazard stacking. As, he gets off, he's getting off scale shots here, and I'm like, I'm not taking a lot of damage from this. So I'm just gonna keep on. So I just wanted to get up my spikes. I get up the 2 layers. I still have the Stealth Rocks up. So in my mind, I'm like, I'm feeling pretty good about this. I don't actually swap, expecting the Swords Dance. I just immediately Whirlwind it, and I'm very thankful that I did not get fully paralyzed. As he swaps back in the Bisharp, the Earthquake, it gets incredibly low. And that low kick does not end up doing enough. Sends Whirlwind back out Gouging Fire, and now also Bisharp is basically done for this game. At this point, I'm just trying to sack off Ting Lu, but I'm like, well, Rillaboom has come in. Easy swap in the Chestnut. He swaps in the Bisharp, sacking it off to get the safe swap into Galarian Articuno. And this was where I ended up kind of making the big mistake. I Terra Chestnut here to not take the super effective hit. Turns out that he was Choice Scarf this game. I still end up living. I get off, I break through the confusion, KOing the Articuno. As Rillaboom comes back in, and is able to actually finally reveal its last move. So it's got Sub with the Grassy Terrain healing, it's got Leftovers, and it's also got Leech Seed. So You know, in my mind, I'm like, oh, this Rillaboom has just become a huge, huge problem with Sub, Leech Seed. I learned Voicemon as a water type. So, I'm like, okay, well, you know, this Rillaboom... Thankfully, you know, grassy terrain is about to end. And I do have Wish on Latios here, so really, there's no way that he can take me out. At this point, I'm like, I guess I'll have to PP stall this guy. But with the less healing from the grassy terrain, it actually ends up becoming a lot harder for him to recover back even more health. It's still, you know, very easy for him to recover back health with Leech Seed Recover and Protect. Missing that Draco Meteor, though, right there was very unfortunate because that would have knocked him into a range to where he would not have been able to sub. Here, I hope that Foul Play would end up doing enough damage. It unfortunately does not do enough damage to break the sub. So I'm like, okay, well, let me just get in Sneasler here, and hopefully 2 Dire Claws just does the trick. So Dire Claw number 1, he protects. And finally, Dire Claw number 2. Only deals half, but it does actually end up getting the poison, which I'm like, okay, thank God. You know, now this Rillaboom can finally be taken care of. So, you know, I'm just waiting for everything to just play out. But, hey, my Lychee Berry popped. I was trying to... I probably should have swapped out the Sneasler there to avoid showing the Lychee Berry, but I used Lychee Berry so much on Sneasler throughout the entire regular season. But anyway, that was a very, very dominant Game 1, and he decides... Game 2, he's going to switch around his team. He's going to bring the second team that he had in the back. Baxcalibur, Hisuian Samurott, Bisharp, Galarian Articuno, Rotom Mow, and Sylveon. Now, this is the exact same team that I had. I ran last game. I did not want to switch things up. I did not want to try and confuse him. But one thing that I was doing the entirety of Game 1 was I was taking notes on like what moves each Mon used and their items. So if he wins this game, for Game 3, I have a good understanding of what each Mon is going into Game 3, if it ends up falling that way. But he starts Hisuian Samurott again, and I Volt Switch right into Chestnut. As, you know, Game 1, I just double discharged. And Game 2, this time, I'm like, okay, well, you know, he's probably going to expect me to Volt Switch this time into, or he's probably going to expect me to just double discharge again, so. Right now, though, I'm doing a very good job of keeping up the pressure. My idea is that, like, you know, Rotom Heat comes in all the time on Rotom Low. This should not have been a Volt Switch here, but I'm like, whoops. Thankfully, you know, he Thunder Waves again, swaps into the Articuno. Hits a good Hurricane on me as I Whirlwinded out. Baxcalibur comes in, and I'm like, well, you know, I can't fight a Baxcalibur with the Tinglu. Vaporeon here takes an Icicle Spear quite well, gets the 4-hit, then takes a Scale Shot. I'm like, okay, well, you know, I've got some good defense investment on Vaporeon. KOing the Baxcalibur with the Alluring Voice. I'm like, okay, you know, I'm in a pretty good position now. Articuno sets up the Calm Mind. As I send a Wish over to Tinglu. healing it to a good amount. As I get confused, hit myself in confusion on the turn I was going to whirlwind. And I'm like, oh god. That was such a big problem. The Terras, I was trying to bait out the Terra. I did not know which Terra he was going to be. But this right here basically won him this game. He missed proccing the blunder policy, and now I can I can do my best to try and like get an endure proc to try and sweep through his team, but really he's playing around it very well. That time I don't endure, and he ends up just cleaning up this game, bringing us to a game 3. And the unfortunate thing is I really did not get to learn a lot about this team that he had. So, going into game 3, he brought the exact same team. I brought the second team. This was the team that had the different sets. So this time, I'm a little bit more prepared. He starts Asuian Samurai. I start Chestnut. I immediately Terra. And this time I'm like, okay, well, I gotta build up a little bit more pressure. I hit the knockoff, knocking off the Choice Scarf on Rotom. I almost had it. So in the past, he had ran Choice Scarf Rotom Bow with double status. So like in the back of my mind, I was like, oh, he's probably that. I was thinking that in game 2. And while I would like to send in Rotom Heat more often onto Rotom Bow, it is unfortunately not something that I can do as much as I want. And him getting off multiple ceaseless edges here, this was the one thing that I was trying to avoid in all of our games. So like, now he's got 3 layers of spikes, which is the one thing that I was trying to avoid, but thankfully, he sends an Articuno here, and I'm like, okay, his blunder policy, his Calm Mind. I sadly did not live the Hurricane. I was hoping that I would, or that, thing, so that I could get off a knockoff. Unfortunately, though, him hitting the Hurricane KOing Chestnut there, a little bit of a problem, but thankfully Latios comes in, does get the KO on the Hisuian Samurai. Bisharp, now this was actually the main reason, so this was actually the big thing on why I was swapping around my sets, or keeping the same team in the same order, but I swapped sets on the 2 different teams. He thought that he still thought that I was Choice Scarf, so I send in Rotom Heat, and I Thunder Wave on the Sucker Punch. So now his Bisharp here is very much in a problem. And +3 Sucker Punch or +4 Sucker Punch, I'm like, I really don't want to try and take that. Thankfully, with the Paralyze, Tinglu was faster than Bisharp. So things are already looking a lot better this game than it was in game 2. Things are a lot more even. I'm in a much better position. That Leaf Storm does a ton of damage to Tinglu here. And I'm like, okay, Articuno's in. I have to just click Whirlwind. Clicks Hurricane. Hits. Does not proc the blunder policy. Draco Meteor, bringing it down to 1 each, bringing it down to 1%. I'm still faster, thankfully, but I miss the Draco Meteor. And I'm like, damn it. Thankfully, though, he does not KO. Hit the Draco Meteor again, and am able to KO the Articuno. It was a huge problem. I just continued the Draco Meteor. I don't want him to get up the Dragon Dance or Sword Stance for free. So he does get off the Sword Stance. Ice Shards. Upper Hand, though. Finally able to use Upper Hand throughout the entire time. I had Upper Hand on some sets, never actually clicked it. That was the first time I was able to click Upper Hand the entire time, and that ended up sealing me the game as well as the championship. So I was able to win the entirety of the Paldea United Draft League in the Scarlet Division. So, yeah, like I said, you didn't make it easy, but, fantastic gameplay at the Pandemonium. Very shockingly, if I go to his team right here, that was actually faster to find than I thought it was. He had no hazard removal at all, period. And he was able to make finals with 0 hazard removal, just playing a very, very offensive game. So very well played the Pandemonium. I'm very shocked in just how well he was able to play with the handicap of, like, I've got no hazard removal on my team. So, very well played the Pandemonium throughout the entire season for him. Congrats to him for making it congrats to him for making it 2 finals. He had a pretty big uphill climb, but he was able to make it. So good games to everybody who I played in the Paldea United Draft League. This won't be the final time that I'll be playing in Paldea United Draft League, though. As coming up, I'll be playing into the Wi-Fi division in a very, very, very interesting way. So I hope that you all stick around for that. I hope if you like this video, drop a like. Subscribe so that you don't miss any new notifications coming out. And I hope that you all have yourselves a fantastic day.